Hello and welcome to our 7-8 minutes of weekly Torah talk. We have two guests today. Both of them are rabbis. Rabbi Lori Rice and Rabbi Flip Rice, that goes by Rabbi Flip, if I understand correctly. We have an interesting Parshat Pinchas. In this Parsha, Aaron's grandson Pinchas is rewarded for his act of zealotry. It's an act he committed in the previous Parsha when he killed an Israelite prince and a Midianite princess who was his lover. A census of the people counts more than 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60. Moshe is instructed on how the Holy Land is to be divided by lottery among the tribes. The 5 daughters of Tzlofchad petition Moses that they be granted the portion of the land belonging to their father who died without sons. And Moshe empowers Yoshua, to succeed him and lead the people into the land of Israel. The second pasuk of our parsha says, Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron, the Kohen, has turned my anger away from the children of Israel by his zealotry, avenging me among them, so that I did not destroy the children of Israel because of my zeal. פנחס בן אלעזר בן אהרון הכהן השיב את חמתי מעל בני ישראל, בקנאו את קנאתי בתוכם ולא כיליתי את בני ישראל בקנאתי. And I should also say, hello rabbis, I should say that you are from congregation Micah in Nashville, Tennessee, a congregation that serves all of Middle Tennessee. So let's begin with the zealotry of Pinchas. That's a troubling story. And I wonder if we can get a sense from it of when is zealotry the right thing and when it's not.
I mean, we know, you're right, it's a troubling story and it's a troubling concept. This idea that of believing that God wants you to engage in a certain action or behavior. And we know that the rabbis say that in some respects Pinchas saved the people because he essentially by his actions stopped the plague, so saved many lives. But we've also seen times in history where an individual's action is rationalized or substantiated on God asked me to do this. Yigal Amir, right? Yitzhak Rabin's assassin believed that God sent him to do that, to save the giving of land for peace. And so I think we have to be quite cautious when we talk about who has God's authority and how do they know that, and who's to decide, because the ramifications are huge.
Can it be said that we only know afterwards if zealotry was justified or not? We cannot know it in advance?
I think what's hard is that there can be this, it's almost like an emotion. There can be good zealotry and there can be bad, right? I think if we're talking about violence, especially in this day and age, this fanatical, uncompromising behavior, we have seen that has not put our country in a very good place. But is there good zealotry? Because that type of emotion, that raw power, is the same thing that causes us to be true to our ideals.
Or social change. Social revolutions.
I'm thinking exactly of people in the street today or fighting for their civil rights, right, or even righteous Gentiles who hid Jews. I mean, if you're going to risk your life, that's a certain kind of zealotry that you're willing to dedicate to your ideals. Now, that's different than killing someone for your zealotry, right? So I think it sort of depends on the context. And we know, like with anger or anything else, Judaism has a lot to say. What you do with these emotions and what is more important, right? How they cause us to act in a more healing and peaceful way. So if it's inciting violence, like
or diminishing the dignity of another human being,
then God seems to be being co-opted, is what we kind of say.
Right. Moving to a different part of the parsha, and it's almost puzzling, how little room it takes in the parsha. In this parsha, we see God commanding Moshe to pick a successor. The Lord said to Moses, "Take for yourself Joshua the son of Nun, a man of spirit and you shall lay your hand upon him. ושמחת את ידך עליו. In very few sentences, we see, one of the main changes in the history of the Jewish people taking place. Moshe, our greatest leader, making room for someone to succeed him. So what can we learn from this process?
When we were discussing this yesterday, I was reminding both of us that it's amazing because God commands Moshe to lay his hand, singular, upon Joshua. But we know that in the actual transmission of power, Moshe lays both his hands upon Joshua, which I think is quite powerful. It shows a fullness of desire and will. I can't help but think about the musical Hamilton, when George Washington sings, "Teach them how to say goodbye." That it's a revolutionary idea that a people should learn to be led by diversity and multiplicity of leadership styles and individuals. That's quite progressive. And the fact that Moshe then lays both hands, not just one, sort of going overboard and hyperbolic in demonstrating to the people that this is a really important act, that a monopoly on leadership, an authoritarian dictatorship that just lasts generations and generations is unhealthy. It's pretty impressive. But can I just go back for one moment?
Oh, you want to go back to zealotry?
I want to go back to zealotry for just a moment, because I think the fact that Zelophehad's daughters is in this Parsha is on purpose, because we have juxtaposed two examples of how power is meant to be expressed, right? Zelophehad's daughters come at a totally different angle than Pinchas does to get what they perceive to be justice. And without kind of making an overt statement about female leadership versus male leadership in today's world, I just want to kind of point out that the Torah is importantly showing us two different ways of getting what's right.
Right. Going back to Joshua, so when the Torah says, or when God tells Moses why Joshua, he uses this expression, Ish asher ruach bo, a man of spirit. I'm not even sure if the translation captures the full meaning of this term, Ish asher ruach bo, a man who has spirit within him. We think about leaders, we want them to be intelligent, tough, cunning, all kinds of things. What do we mean by a leader who has spirit?
Well, we could almost say that it's not just Ruach, it's Ruach Elohim. There's a special divine role that he, in fact, is playing.
But that's dangerous.
Yeah, of course. I think also that the idea of Moses' humility and transferring that leadership, everybody's playing a role. God has a role in this short section. The people have a role. They're witnessing this sort of experience. What do you think?
Well, it might be that the Ruach here is passion. The passion is important. I also like to say that, you have to have the enthusiasm and energy. I like to say that our president needs to be young enough to not need to nap during the day. And so that may be the kind of Ruach. But we also see today that when a civic leader is deemed as being like God's anointed one, or God is with them, or that can be dangerous. So in this case, it might be an appropriate level of passion and energy and enthusiasm.
I'm actually blown away by our contemporaries, rabbis across this country and world that are doing amazing things virtually, given the environment that we're in, and trying still to connect with people, because part of our superpowers are gathering and singing together. And these are the things that really we're just not able to do at this time. And so different leaders are required at different times. I think Joshua needed to have the spirit because it was a religious community and he had to be seen that way. That's separate from our current political situation. I also think that there were certain qualities like the ability to motivate people to do other things, not just to have the vision, but to implement that. And we know that continues because the Torah doesn't just stop in the first 5 books. We have a whole Tanakh and a whole ongoing story of the Jewish people. And in each generation, including this one, there have really been amazing rabbis stepping forward. I would argue that providing this kind of programming is also helpful. Yeah.
I think about one of the musical pieces we sing often on the High Holy Days, on the Yamim Noraim, which is a song called Ruach Elohim. It's a song of healing. And I wonder if, in this case, this Ruach Elohim is the sense that, that God is anointed one, or God is with them, or that can be dangerous. So in this case, it might be that the Ruach here is passion. The passion is important. I also like to say that, you have to have the enthusiasm and energy. I like to say that our president needs to be young enough to not need to nap during the day. And so that may be the kind of Ruach. But we also see today that when a of possibility. Of we are co-creators with God in that way. Maybe that's the ruach. That not that Joshua has God-like ability, but that Joshua sees himself as a partner with God in bringing the people forward, and that's that ruach.
And it's interesting that we speak about his spirit, even though we know that as a leader, what he will do is mostly go to war.
Not by might, not by power, but by spirit alone. And yet he is, in fact, the person who, yes, will lead the charge and take a military stance. Yeah.
Rabbis, thank you for this wonderful conversation, and Shabbat Shalom.
An honor to be with you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, good Shabbos. Be well.